I know some of you have been to some of my other lectures in my other visits here, but I'm sure a great share of you are listening to me for the first time. I might give you just a little background on how I got here, not on the airplane, but why I chose to get into lecturing. I'm primarily a businessman. I'm not a professional public speaker, as you will ascertain. But my life started off rather simply in farm country in Idaho, where I was raised in one of the small states of the United States, a little farm community of 4,000 or 5,000 people. I went to high school, graduated, went to college for 1 year, decided I was smart enough, so I quit, which was one of my major mistakes, among a lot of major mistakes I made back in those early days. I thought, hey, I'm smart enough, I'm certainly ambitious enough, I'll just go to work, find a job. I'll come to work early, stay late, work hard, take the classes, learn whatever I've got to do, and no problem. Sure enough, no problem getting a job. So I get a job, and I'm working hard, right? Arriving early, staying late, putting in the extra time, and just working away. 2 or 3 years later, I met this beautiful young lady, and I put probably my finest sales presentation on her. I promised her wealth and fame and world travel. For starters, I said it would probably be the finest decision of your life to marry me. And she bought that story. Fortunately for me, she did. So we got married, and now I got all these promises to keep, as well as my own dreams. So I'm continuing to work away best I can. 2 or 3 years after I got married, I'm looking at my check on Friday, $57. And that's not quite what I'd promised. And I had fallen into the someday honey routine with my wife. Right? Someday, honey, you won't have to sit on this old furniture. Someday, honey, you'll have a car of your own. I had already someday honeyed myself into trouble. But now my big dilemma is, what can I do about it? You know, it's one thing to find yourself in not too good of circumstances, but what do you do about it? I looked around at other people, right, 50, 60 years old, that had wound up broke and needing assistance in one of the richest countries in the world, and I thought, well, I don't want my life to work out like that. But what do you do to make the changes? I was willing to try anything, but I just really didn't know what to try. I thought, well, maybe I should go back to school. 1 year of college doesn't look that swift on an application. But now my family's starting. So I've got my family starting. Going back to school seemed like kind of a tough decision. But I knew I needed something. I didn't have any money, right, to start my own business. Money was one of my problems. I had far too much month at the end of the money, if you've ever been in that position. And I remember one time losing $10, and I was physically ill for 2 days over a $10 bill. Some of my friends tried to be cheerful. They said, look, maybe some poor person that needed it found it. That really didn't help. At age 25, benevolence had not yet seized me. You know, I'm the poor person that needs to find $10, not lose $10. But that's where I was. I was discouraged. I was unhappy. Where do I go from here? I'm willing to try, but I really don't know what to try. Well, to make a long story short, when I was 25 years old, good fortune came my way. And sometimes it's a little difficult to describe good fortune. Why do unique things happen to you when they do? I don't know. Part of that's a mystery to me. One of my friends says, well, things don't just happen. They happen just. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But my good fortune was, at age 25, I met a very remarkable man. He was a wealthy man, a businessman, an entrepreneur. And when I met him, he appeared to be happy. I found out later, sure enough, he was. And I had only been around him about 30 minutes when I said to myself, what a way to live. I would give anything if I was like him. I wonder what it would take. Well, to make a long story short, this very remarkable man, Mr. Schoaf, Mr. Earl Schoaf, took a liking to me. And a few months after I met him, he hired me, and I went to work for him. And I spent the next 5 years working for him. And during that 5-year period, he shared with me what to do to change my life. Unfortunately, after that 5 years, he died. But I got to spend 5 years with this very remarkable man, and the best thing he gave me during that time was not a job. The best thing he gave me was the benefit of his philosophy. How to be wealthy, how to be happy. And sure enough, his ideas worked for me. Then about 18 years ago, I was living in Beverly Hills, California. And I was going through my notes one day, journals, that I've kept all these years. One of the major things Mr. Shoaff taught me was to keep good notes. Put your notes in a journal. He said, don't trust your memory. I thought that was good. Don't trust your memory. If you hear something good, write it down. If you hear a good sermon, take notes. If you read a good book, take the best of it out, put it in a journal. If you think of something good, write it down. If you attend a lecture, seminar, sales training, whatever, just take the ideas that you hear, put them in your journal, and let this be your textbook for better living, better sales, better enterprise. Just go back through all the ideas that you're gathering, and that's how you educate yourself to do better. So, Mr. Shoaff really did me a service by teaching me to keep these journals. And I was going through those early journals one day when the idea for lecturing occurred to me. I thought, I should share all of this, right? I've used it to make my fortune. Why not pass it along? I'd shared the ideas with my business colleagues, right, putting companies together, but I'd never shared it with the public. And I was intrigued with the idea. I thought, I should at least try, see if I can stand up and talk to a group of people and express my ideas of the things that helped me. And you don't know till you try, right? So I put the ideas together from those early journals, and 18 years ago I gave my first seminar at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, Beverly Hills. And fortunately today, you are not in on my first seminar. I was terribly sincere, but it was pretty ragged. In fact, it was so bad, if I hadn't have been doing it, I'd have gone home. But when you're doing them, it's hard to leave, right? You can't very well excuse yourself. But anyway, I did my best and sort of struggled through that first one. I had a kind of a tough time. I stood up to talk. My mind sat back down, if you've ever had that problem. I opened my mouth, and at first nothing came out. My knees are banging together. I'm shaking like a leaf, and the sweat's pouring off my face. It's called terror, in case you haven't tried it before. But I did the best I could, and when I finished that first little lecture, some people came up and said, I think you've got some good ideas. We're going to try them. And I thought, wow, somebody got it. And that helped me, encouraged me to try it again, When you try it first, right, who knows whether you're going to do well or not. But if you keep trying, you can become more comfortable. Words are a bit clumsy when you first try to express your ideas and your feelings. But if you stay at it, you know, that will change. So sure enough, I kept trying again and again, and I got a little more comfortable with the ideas, sharing, lecturing. Then a few months later, some people came to me and said, those ideas you shared with us a few months ago, we're using them, and it's working. And that got me. I thought, what a great feeling to share something you know with somebody else, have them come back and say, it's making a difference for me, my life, my bank account, my program. So that sort of got me hooked on lecturing. And ever since then, I've been devoting more and more time to lecturing. And then I started getting invitations, come to a breakfast meeting, come to a luncheon meeting, tell your story. So little by little, I've been taking more and more of my time away from my executive duties and devoting it to lecturing. And about 8 years ago, what started as a hobby became a business. And now with all the language translations and cassette tapes and video tapes and books and home study programs, my lectures have now become another business, another enterprise. And I'm happy about that because I like to do this just about better than anything else I do. But I'm pleased to be here and to try one more time, share my story, pass along some ideas that might be helpful. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I got some I'm using. And the purpose of this lecture is for me to share with you what I'm using. I am not a textbook teacher. I'm an experienced teacher. So I'd like to just have everybody settle back and give me your attention for the next few hours and see if I can't pass along to you some ideas that'll make sense. And I don't ask you to buy them all. I don't ask you to agree with them all. But I would ask you to listen to them all. When any speaker gets through, just edit all the stuff, take what makes sense to you, and throw the rest away, or leave it for another time, or put it aside and argue with it later. I don't mind that. Whatever you do, don't be a follower, be a student. And that might get your notes started. Don't be a follower.